The Justice League is one of the most powerful teams in comics. They're a force for good, or are they? Despite their amazing abilities and strict moral codes, even the legendary heroes of the Justice League have let their veils slip from time to time, committing sins that range from understandably human to unforgivably atrocious. Some of these acts may have involved massive character assassinations on some of our most beloved heroes, but still made for exhilarating reads. Others were admittedly not as downright evil, but made for such unreadably irritating comics that I still haven't forgiven them. So with that in mind, I'm Will for What Culture, and here are the 10 worst things the Justice League has ever done. 10. Owned and operated a super gulag. Kingdom Come. Mark Waid and Alex Ross's epic saga Kingdom Come presents us with a disillusioned Justice League who are having trouble accepting just how outdated they are. Like the baby boomers of the DC universe, they just can't wrap their heads around these newfangled superheroes and villains who seem to take things so much further than they ever used to. The world is progressing too fast for their liking, and Superman decides they need to regain control. When Parasite splits open a hero by the name of Captain Atom, the effect is not dissimilar to splitting open an actual atom. The resulting explosion transforms the entire state of Kansas into an uninhabitable, irradiated wasteland. Never one to waste an opportunity, Supes and his merry gang use this newly available real estate to build a superpowered gulag using alien technology that will act as a penitentiary for any villains or heroes who step out of line. And who decides if someone steps out of line? Why, the Justice League, obviously. Naturally, this does not work out very well, and it's not long before the gulag is turned into an all-out war zone. 9. Invaded a country. Extreme Justice. Once upon a time, in the 80s and 90s, the Justice League became an international franchise. Like the McDonald's of superhero teams, there were Justice Leagues in America, Europe, and even Antarctica. Captain Atom didn't feel like he quite fit in with any of these region-specific groups, so he took a leaf out of Rob Liefeld's book and created his own team, one more edgy and awesome than any other superhero team, and thus Extreme Justice was born. And boy, did they take things to the extreme. When they heard that the country of Bialia were manufacturing robot versions of a group of villains known as the Extremists, Extreme Justice took the only logical step. They invaded the entire country. Captain Atom and co. destroyed the factories that made the robots and destroyed the robots themselves. It was only after this they realized they weren't robots at all. They were human cyborgs, made from the ordinary civilians serving in the Bialian army. Now that's a whoopsie. Extreme Justice had just murdered a foreign country's troops, which was not a good look. In fact, it was such a bad look that it led to the dissolution of every single branch of the Justice League. 8. Promoted themselves to Justice Lords. Batman Beyond. Continuing in this trend of the Justice League abusing their superpowers to gain real-world powers, the Justice Lords were a prime example of what can happen when absolute power corrupts absolutely. In the Batman Beyond universe, Superman realizes Lex Luthor will forever continue his cycle of doing crimes, getting arrested, and immediately escaping to do it all again. So the Man of Steel decides there's only one thing for it. He gave Lex a blast of his laser vision, killing the guy instantly. Rather than being, horrified by this, the rest of the League actually get on board. And before you knew it, the League were referring to themselves as lords, toppling world governments, abolishing law and order, outlawing democracy, spying on the entire populace, and straight up murdering any and all criminals on sight. 7. Allowed Snapper CARR to exist. Justice League of America. To be completely honest, this one is more the fault of the Justice League's writers, although the members themselves are not completely without blame. Snapper was an ordinary, non-powered teenager who just, snapped his fingers. A lot. He sort of hung around the Justice League and said relatable things like, quote, "Shucks, why was I in such a fret sweat?" And, quote, "Man, this grass mat is the coolest. Wait till Daddy-O casts his orbs on it." Yes, those are real quotes, I did not make them up. Now, obviously this was intended to appeal to the hip, trendy kids of the 1970s, but it is unfathomable as to why the Justice League kept him around. He was always getting himself into trouble and also was just really annoying. 6. Turned a darker shade of green. Cry for justice. After the final Crisis event saw both Martian Manhunter and Batman bite the dust, the League became divided. In Cry for Justice, Green Lantern and Green Arrow go about things a slightly different way. They have no qualms about viciously beating information out of criminals and hunting down villains like animals. They also freely broke the #1 rule in the history of the JLA, when Green Arrow full-on murdered Prometheus. Now, in fairness to Green Arrow, Prometheus had just destroyed Star City, but in unfairness to Green Arrow, killing isn't typical superhero activity. Might be going a bit far, Oliver. 5. Told some disabled kids to quit complaining. Justice League of America. Oh boy, this one. The case of the Disabled Justice League saw the team attempting to inspire a hospital full of children dealing with different disabilities. To prove to the children that they are just as capable of being heroes as anyone else, each member took on a different disability as they did their hero business, and still managed to succeed. Now, it was a nice idea, I guess, but the clumsy execution made the League come across more like patronizing bullies than inspirational role models. From the way they interact with the children, the JLA seemed to be of the weird opinion that the only thing stopping the kids from being superheroes is their bad attitudes. It's got nothing to do with, say, their life-altering paralysis or incurable blindness, for example. The children, for some reason, delight in being talked down to like this. They promise to stop complaining and do something with their lives, now that they've been taught their disabilities are just all in their heads. Right. 4. Took a gap year. 52. Look, we all need a break from time to time, it's only fair. So, I'm not surprised after the events of Infinite Crisis, Batman, Superman and Wonder Woman decided they needed time off to relax. This led to 52, an experimental event in which DC released weekly comics over 1 year, all of which highlighted second and third tier heroes over their flagship characters. This went about as well as expected. While the 52 comics were entertaining and great showcases of otherwise underdeveloped characters, they featured so many moments that could have been so easily solved by any of the Justice League getting up off their lazy asses and coming back to work. After all, villains like Black Adam did not take any holiday time at all, and came close to starting World War III as a result. 3. Disbanded and moved to Detroit. Justice League of America. The Detroit era has become known as the dark age of the Justice League of America comic book run. It wasn't that the League had turned to the dark side, it was just that the writers had turned to the bland, boring, and altogether uninspired side. When he realized that all of DC's top-tier heroes were just too gosh darn busy with their own problems to run an effective Justice League, Aquaman disbanded the group, moved his center of operations to Detroit, and started a league of his own. And this was Aquaman at his least cool. This is him full-on Family Guy parody level of lameness. Some of the new members tried desperately to make the team feel more modern, such as Vibe, the breakdancing teenager, but the whole thing was so random, weird, and anti-JLA that it fell completely flat. Unsurprisingly, sales plummeted for this version of the team, and they were soon scrubbed from the record. 2. Batman's secret murder plans. Tower of Babel. In the Justice League storyline Tower of Babel, it was revealed that Batman, ever the pessimist, had made a detailed plan for how he could take down and murder each of his co-workers if he ever had to. Frankly, this was just good planning, and knowing Batman, it was probably something he'd do for fun in his spare time anyway. Although the plans were genius and possibly even justified, unfortunately for everyone involved, Batman did not figure out how to use the security settings on his Google Drive, because his secret murder plans were leaked to none other than Ra's al Ghul. Although the team did survive Ghul's attack, Batman was booted out of the Justice League as a result. 1. Brainwashed Batman. Identity Crisis. As we have learned from this list, the Justice League have done bad things to heroes and villains over the years. However, this entry is a double whammy, as the League gravely mistreat not only one of their greatest enemies, but also one of their greatest allies. The magical Zatanna is recruited to brainwash the villainous Dr. Light, effectively rewriting his entire personality. This is obviously a big moral no-no, being the superhero equivalent of performing a lobotomy. At least Batman thinks so, and firmly objects when he figured out what the League are planning. So they just brainwash him too. Simples. Only not simples. Horrifying and an incredible violation of Batman's mind. This is why he keeps plans to murder you all, guys. Think about that next time you magically lobotomize someone. And there you have it, folks, the 10 worst things the Justice League has ever done. Feel free to drop this video a like if you enjoyed it, and drop me a follow on Twitter at USlyDowell. I'm Will for What Culture, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.